Do you ever wonder why we are actually born? Or it's not that cliche. What is the meaning of life? What maybe some existentialist philosopher will ask you. But literally, why did anyone decide it was a good idea to bring another person to existence? Maybe your father, your mother, your ancestors. And interestingly, though, the question is asked by one philosophy that is called Anti-Natalism. It is a philosophy that doesn't actually challenge the idea of parenting or morality only, but it is the very challenging fundamentals to the existence itself. Why do I exist? For whom do I exist? And this concept appears not only in philosophical texts, in modern media, specifically in anime. We have seen in Attack on Titan, particularly one character is very close to anti-natalism. That is Zeke Yeager, the big brother of the goat Eren Yeager, who holds the only means to preserve humanity is to preserve and prevent it from breeding or reproducing at all, specifically the Eldians, we all know. Now, today we are going in depth about anti-natalism, how it shows up, how it works, who actually was the founding father of this philosophical thought, and how in modern media anti-natalism is portrayed. And also one very crucial question we always do, that whether this philosophical thought is practical to the modern context in 21st century, or it is just another pragmatic thought process. Now, if we go to the root of anti-natalism, anti-natalism isn't really a modern concept. Like many people might think, oh, it is regarding the concept, the very concept of reproduction or maybe sexual morality. And in medieval era, there was not really the concepts of sexual morality. But it is not very contemporary. It is really old, older than modern philosophical thought, even older than the internet if ever existed. This concept actually shows up in early Greek philosophy. For instance, in Bible too, there are some instances, although we all know Bible is inspired very much from Judeo-Christian morality, or the Judeo-Platonic morality, we can say. Now, in ancient Greek philosophy, there was a particular person which is called Hegesias of Cyrene, who mentioned that happiness was unattainable, and thus the best option was not to exist properly. Now, jump forward to contemporary times. We find such philosophers like Arthur Schopenhauer, you all know, the professor of Friedrich Nietzsche. He largely proposes his contemporary writing on the context of suffering and not pleasure, and therefore bringing a person into the world is essentially coercing him into suffering. More recently, David Banneter, perhaps the most referenced contemporary anti-natalists in modern era, published Better Never to Have Been: The Harm of Coming into Existence. He is a straightforward but chilling argument. Pain is bad, pleasure is good, and lack of pain is actually good, even if no one exists to feel that good. So, inherent goodness, according to the anti-natalists, is that you don't continue the cycle of suffering. You just escape it somehow. Now, Arthur Schopenhauer's inspirations came from Buddhism a bit. We talked about Buddhist samsara, the concept of samsara, in our just last video of Akira. But Arthur Schopenhauer somehow emphasizes this even more. That is, by not being born, you don't suffer without losing anything worthwhile, because there is no you to lose it. If there is no you, there is no loss. If there is no loss, there will be no pain and suffering. Simple concept, right? It's a chilling rational argument actually, but it strikes with a very deep chord within ourselves. If you have ever gazed upon the maze of the world, like there are poverty, there is a war, there is a depression, there is climate change, and ever did you think, Why would anyone give a child a chance to grow up in this particular world, in this pathetic world? Yes, this is a very pessimistic idea, but also somehow this is a very practical idea as well. Now coming to Zeke Yeager, one of my favorite anime characters. Zeke is not a proper villain. Since season 2 and 3, we have been wondering whether Zeke is the main villain of the series or not. But when season 4 came, we understood really that Zeke had his own trauma from Grisa Yeager, we all know. Now Zeke is of the opinion of the alien people, whether they shall exist or not. Now, alien people had the power to transform themselves into a titan, whether the mindless titans or the normal titans, okay, or the powerful titans we already know. They should stop their misery by stopping the reproduction of the process. His particular scheme is the euthanasia prayer. Okay, he wanted to euthanize the future generation of Eldia. It is an anti-natalist utopia which belongs to the concept of sterilization. That means Zeke wanted to sterilize his own people to make sure that no one has no more children and allow the alien race to silently just disappear from this earth, so that the cycle of hatred and the cycle of pain is completely erased from the heart of this planet. Now it is quite frightening if you imagine if today I try to do it to my own race, people will be having so much offense against me. Obviously, it's frightening idea, but deeply philosophical to solve a permanent issue. Zeke surveys the never-ending cycle of suffering, war and retaliation and comes to the conclusion if you want to end it, you have to destroy the cycle itself. Right? This reflects particularly the philosophy of Arthur Schopenhauer. Schopenhauer's conviction that desire is the cause of suffering, that as soon as you are there, you begin desiring things, and as soon as you desire things, you begin suffering. Zeke's logic might feel a bit wicked, a bit psychopathic, but if you think, it is better than Eren Yeager in my opinion. What Eren did was not sympathetic at all, but Zeke's philosophy was sympathetic in a warped manner. He perceives a world established on inherent suffering and concludes that the most kind thing is to allow it to die with honor, without having a child in the future. This is what makes him such an intriguing character for anti-natalism in mainstream culture. I really haven't found any character who is as anti-natalist and as pragmatic like Zeke Yeager in any anime I have watched in the past 10 years. I have watched over 300 animes, but Zeke comes closest to this particular analogy. But here's one particular challenge to Zeke's philosophy. Zeke's philosophy falls apart in the face of human complexity itself. Humans don't merely crave pleasure, we crave meaning actually. Even in the pain, we discover love stories, beauty, rebellion, right? And that's what characters like Eren embody. So, Attack on Titan particularly shows us the balance between Zeke's anti-natalism and Eren's rebellion against the existence of the enmity itself. So, as a whole, we can say Zeke and Eren are the sides of the same coin, but they were a bit contradictory with each other. One just says, why live it at all? And the other one says, because we can choose to live and we must change the life. Now, this is the primary contradiction between the two characters, the two brothers, primarily associated to their socio-ecological growth, in my opinion, because one was brought up in Marley, one was brought up in a completely separated island, and when Eren's delusion actually broke, he completely went crazy. He understood that no one wants the aliens. Now that's a separate case. If I ever make a philosophical analysis of Attack on Titan, we will be covering all those parts. But overall, we can say that Zeke wanted to completely morally stop the Eldians from reproducing. Now, if we come out of the anime world, can we apply this particular philosophical process in our practical life or practical world? In contemporary societies, if I pick the biggest two societies for case studies, India and China, we can see the family and continuity are embedded in our culture, right? The notion of rejecting birth itself is anything but inconceivable, right? In India, family, we have often seen that family is not just a concept. It is social, economic, and spiritual being. It lives literally. Having children is not just a moral obligation. It is not only to yourself but to your ancestors as well, your line, your faith. You have to understand this. Having a child is philosophically doctrinized in the concept of Indian societies. Whether it is the Hindus or the Muslims or the Buddhists, all people equally believe that reproducing a child is the greatest work of human beings. Now in China, we can see that story is a bit complicated. After decades of one-child policy, we are now seeing the opposite. There is a demographic crisis where the government now wants people to have more child. But many young people are saying no. Why? So in a way, we are already seeing a soft form of anti-natalism. Not philosophical, but practically implicable, we can say. Many people simply don't want to bring a child into a world they see as unstable, unfair, and ecologically doomed. But that's the different from moral anti-natalism, which says it's wrong to bring someone into existence. Now look, morality and reasoning, those two things often cannot go side by side, specifically when we are talking about anti-natalism. Moral anti-natalism and reasonable anti-natalism are completely two different things. One is inspired by the notion of suffering and one is inspired by the notion of socio-political environment, or we can say the cultural environment as a whole. Humans are programmed to reproduce, we all know. Darwinism says that the most common feature between a single cell organism and a complex multicellular organism like human beings is that we can reproduce, right? This is the common thing. If I today go outside, if I see people outside, when I visit the house of my girlfriend, when I am returning to my house, I couple of times have seen many people living below the poverty line, and they are living miserably, and they live even below the flyovers or the bridges. In the rainy monsoon, they somehow survive that environment where they are cooking, beside that they have a toilet. This is how unhygienic, how pathetically they are living. I am not morally saying they are living wrong, in a wrong way. They belong to that economic class, so they are destined to live in that way. Now think about it. What is the most common feature between him and me? We all are born out of reproduction, and eventually he will be having sex and I will be having sex with my partner as well. And this is the most common factor between us, that we both have sex, but he does sex for necessity. For me, yes, it might be necessity. Also, I bring up moral and charm and fantasy and passion, all these kind of things. Maybe for him it is not. It is just a mere reproductory action for him. And this is the basic difference and basic similarity between us. So, can we morally say to that person that no, you shall not be breeding because you are suffering and your child will be suffering as well? No, he will not probably understand your philosophical thoughts about it, whether it is morally or socio-politically. We can never make that person understand that no, you shall not be having reproduction. And even for that person to get the minimal amount of sex education to resist himself from having a child, just have the sex and just move on, not like having a child, he cannot understand, or his partner even cannot understand. For the woman and for the man, for both of them living in that economic class, the most common factor is having sex. And I belong to a different economic class. For me, it is the primary necessity as well. So can we morally imply that thing on him? Maybe no. It doesn't sound practical very much in such a society, in my opinion. Look, in my opinion, we can apply pragmatism in this case. Anti-Natalism is an abstract philosophy which is virtually impossible to live by universally. But as an ethical guide, it can help us become more responsible about our future. Maybe today I shall not have the child, but in future, when I will have enough economic security, or I will reduce the amount of suffering, I can guarantee the next generation that I can reduce the suffering for you, I must have a child. Maybe it is about having the balance between having a child and not having a child. In India, poverty and population often intertwine, and in China, government policies forcibly imply those things on people who belong to different economic classes. This realization overall that India is obliged to reproduce and China cannot is the practical example how anti-natalism shall be implied depending on the person's natural understanding about sex as a whole, how he sees the act of reproduction. And this is what is most important for our society right now, in my opinion. Now, we are concluding the video almost. So let's go back to the question. What binds me to an individual who lives under the bridge? To Zeke Yeager, to Schopenhauer, or a single cell organism maybe. It's the will to live actually. Or maybe, more accurately, we can say the struggle between the will to live and awareness of suffering. That tension defines the human condition. Look, what is the difference between me and that person? Maybe he is not aware. Okay, cut to this part of the video. As you can assume from the surroundings, I am traveling. And I am right now at such a place of my state which can be considered as a very much rural area of my state. And when I was traveling here as well, coming back to the context of the video, I saw many villages, many rural people and some indigenous people of our land, maybe more indigenous than me. They are called Sautas. Okay. And when I saw small children living under the poverty line, yet they are happy, I had some hope inside me which was constantly rebelling with the nihilism or the pessimism of Arthur Schopenhauer. And I understood that these people might not have anything, but can I impose the context of morality on their reproductive notion? Maybe not. This is not that one dimension. And when we are coming to the context of anti-natalism, this particular thing, I realized that this is not that simple. This changes with the contemporary society, contemporary psychology of the reproduction, and how people generally perceive the context of sex. And like when I am talking about this, like it was 40 degrees Celsius, the scorching heat at daytime, and right now it is 15 to 16 degrees Celsius, and it is chilling. Like this particular atmosphere is very good for content creation. I love this atmosphere, and constant you can hear the insects buzzing, and in this atmosphere I feel poetic, and this poetic notion inside me says that you can still have some hope. I am not that person who governs hope or who is an advocate of strong delusional hope, but I am an advocate of rational thinking that yes, maybe in the future there might be a chance of getting out of the suffering, and that chance might be with your children. Yes, there will be the burden, there will be suffering, definitely the same amount of suffering you are getting, your children might get it amplified as well. But are we anyone to choose for them? Maybe not, maybe not. Yeah, or maybe yes. It is that complex notion of human psychology. There are multiple layers within it. So concluding this video, I hope you enjoyed. If you enjoyed this video, subscribe to my channel Philosophical Tetsu. For now, I'm signing off. The comment section is open for your opinions. And thank you. Enjoy this surrounding.